Greetings, friends, family, loved ones, cherished individuals. Um, I'm going to talk about how to let go and let God, so to speak, what that message means as far as the burden of resentment and what that feels like or entails as far as it being a like drinking poison expecting someone else to be harmed by it, because ultimately the resentment is harming the individual that is carrying that load versus unpacking that that garbage, that laundry, and either washing it clean or um, incinerating it. So um, choosing to not pick up resentment is key in extinguishing that fire. So it's a process, a learning process and curve that we experience as humans sometimes. Is picking up things and putting them into our backpack and carrying a load that sometimes becomes more heavy than we can bear. And in those times of crises and recognizing that despair, that trauma, um, it is like a roaring lion in one's face. It's really real and can can knock you off your high horse, off guard, and dispels chaos into your life. Getting more proficient and getting more proficient and stronger at acknowledging that there's duties involved with faith, with works, and this is one of the ways I'm acknowledging it is through these podcasts. But I also have to acknowledge that the rational, logical portion of guarding my mind, my heart, my soul, and being gifted by the experiences that the Spirit has to offer, and choosing to not pick up the burden of resentment is something that is been a trap that I've been able to overcome, and the last 2 years. Previously to that, I was going through such a hard time being homeless and freezing in the cold and suffering, trying to, I guess, I was trying to rescue people, save them in ways that was beyond my strength and my character. Like, I went all out. That reshaped my heart, hardened it, but also was a profound experience that I have no regrets towards going out of my way to have these experiences, because I know that the amount of pressure and I can acknowledge that the forces that I was up against were testing me by trial and by crucifying, like in essence, like the freezing cold weather or the um, the situation, getting influenced in directions. Like, those were my choices to go and live in a tent and stuff. Like, and when it came to asking for help, I had a lot of pride and ego issues. So the biggest resentment I have is for myself, but also I also had a lot of intentions that were in tune with the value system that I have personally grown strong and attached to and was not willing to sacrifice. I wasn't willing to throw away the little speck of light in my eyes and my source of being, in that hope that I, when presented with being desperate and struggling at the core, I still was fighting for righteousness, still was intentionally seeking out the good in things. And I say the road to hell is paved with good intention. I don't understand that, or like when in Rome, do as the Romans. Like, why? Like, why not be above the influence? Why not search for wisdom and stay on a path that is healthy and helpful if it's available. If it's not available, that's where I felt like the carpet had been ripped out from under me, the whole footing, the ground was crumbling, and the world was falling apart. But I still had my soul, and I still fought for, if anything, I thought of God more often than I breathed, because it was like at the forefront of my mind that how am I doing this? How am I sustaining? How am I being able to stay alive? Like, it's a profound recognition and revelation that you've come to know that the life's you start questioning things that you thought you knew, food, water, like things that used to be important or that you were placing as a higher value than what they may actually be as far as important to you in the future. Like, they may change. And um, but I did do some cool things. I saved 4 people's lives. I did CPR on a girl who had relapsed on heroin, and I pulled a lady out of a car that was in a car wreck, and I checked on the other guy. He was content with sitting there, but his car wasn't leaking or on fire or anything. So that was the important part, was getting her to safety. Um, and I watched the guy collapse on his birthday from cocaine and heroin, and went up to the people. I didn't have a phone. I was on hiatus, and I said, like, call 911. You get an ambulance here. It's like in the middle of I was like in Portland downtown, by the oh, it doesn't matter, but anyways, I was in a bad spot, and people would look at me like, that's crazy, but we wouldn't think to do that because he had drugs on him, or it was because they were partying, or they'd be like, bye, And I said, look, call 911 and tell him where we're at, and I'll put a blanket under his head, and I'll watch him do CPR if I have to, those type of things. So ambulance came, they put he was having convulsions and foaming at the mouth and stuff, and they put the shockers on his heart and got it started again. And they said, who had him call the ambulance? And they just pointed at me, and it's like, oh, I gotta go. I wasn't sticking around for any accolades or anything. It's just that um, these critical times of do or don't do, use good judgment despite the adversity, the situation, because logically I would have been like, oh, here's a situation I don't want to be involved with. Like, there's going to be, if the ambulance comes or police show up, I could have run the risk of getting arrested. But at the same time, I was like, morally, I'm sticking to what is the truth to me, and nothing's going to hold me back from that, biting that line. And if I'm going through hell, then I'm doing it for you. And that's what it amounts to, is picking up that cross and following a suit with what's real and relevant, versus like anything else. Like, nothing else matters besides the willingness to persevere in adversity and become stronger and more courageous and love deeper. And like, this world's got a lot of messages. It's confusing and not helpful for youth. It's not helpful for others. There's suffering. There's also a lot of drug addiction. There's a lot of pornography. There's things that is just like not really healthy and helpful for children growing up, or for adults that are exposed to the demonic sources that are out there. So choosing to guard the mind, guard the heart, guard the soul, and recognize the gift of the Spirit, and being like in some ways a Christian and a warrior, and seeking out bits of knowledge, like what it was like for God's people, like original God's people, went into battle scared for their lives. And one of the things that stuck out to me, the story on battle that the Gideons went through, was an angel had come to the party and said, "Gather up the men. There's a there's tents, and there's marauders that want to come and extinguish you guys. So in the middle of the night, we'll go out there. We'll pound the drums at some point. But this is how I want you to, how you'll pick your men, because we're not going to risk the lives of 300 men." And he said to them, "Look for the ones that drink the water using a cup." So that the reason why is because the ones that went down and drank with their mouths were not paying attention to what was going on around them. So that was one of the things, was the key. It was to recognize who was actually vigilant. The other one was, and also who could follow the orders. So they were instructed to go to the middle of the camp, and then in the quiet of the night. And these men had been drinking and partying and doing things that were unhealthy, to pound the war drums in the darkness, and to not be scared, and to let chaos ensue amongst the camp. And they attacked themselves and took themselves out by their confusion and by the grace of God. And and not one of them had a hair touched, and not one of them had to engage in battle, because it was because of their connectivity, because of their loyalness to the higher power, and to acknowledge that source of goodness that flowed through them. So that's just like one story of many. It's like there's a story about a guy, for instance, who had this one that stuck out to me. He worked on boats. So this boat, multi-million-dollar boat, this big vessel, had run into engine troubles, and the captain had sent out, searching for engineers that could handle this problem. And he's all these researchers, guys that were proficient on the technology, couldn't figure out what was wrong with the motor, why it wouldn't start. And they were like, everything, all the lines, the connections, the electrical connections, everything's in place. It should start up, and they couldn't figure out what the problem was. So he finally got so desperate, he heard of this guy that had been working on boats for years, like just working on boat engines and stuff. And he calls him up, and he says, "Hey, I'm at the wit's end and need help with this." So he says to him to come check on his motor. So the guy goes in there with the hammer, listens, checks the motor. He comes up to a part, taps on it, and he says, "Start up your engine." He starts up the engine, and it works. And he says to him, "How much?" He says, "How much do you want me to charge you for this service?" And the guy says, $20 for the hammer, and $2,000 for knowing where to tap." And the guy is like, $2,000? All you did was come in here and tap a hammer. But he agreed to pay him. And the point is the experience and the knowledge that comes with that. So some of the things I tried to overcome when I was faced with things I didn't understand was acknowledging that there's a thing called like for instance, I didn't understand trauma bonding or what that might entail. Did not know what I was getting into. Of course, I was in a codependent relationship of some type or another, in which that's what they were saying. I looked it up. I was like, oh man, I fell into a trap here, and now it's like, for me, morally too late to back out of. And when it came to getting tough with it and getting real with it and experiencing the karmas of that I'd racked up from being an ill teenager or something, like it came to the point where I've recovered enough and I haven't been doing enough works that is important and valuable. So, it was an attitude adjustment that was coming my way. Whether however I want to perceive it or recognize it, it was hardship and it was an attitude adjustment, and it taught me a lot about myself, how to be more compassionate, loving, cherish those that are struggling. Like, I don't know what circumstances they're in. I don't know where their heart lies, where their mental health, what their mental state is. I know when I see someone that looks skinny and looks like they're in need of water, food, and I don't have like the means to solve everybody's problems, but if I have a little bit of something to help somebody out and a little more knowledge than they may be able to understand at that time. So like when I go to a store, I can see the deals, like, and I'm good with numbers, so I'm gifted with that. So I can go in and like get a good deal on something, and I know that I have enough stuff sustained for me, taken care of. And I noticed this person holding a sign or something. I'm always like, hey, here's a little bit of change and like, or a buck or something, and here's some food and some drink too, like just to be helpful, and tell them a peace and a blessing, and I acknowledge that they're in a struggle, and their battles are not always, I don't always, how do I say this? Like, they're like stars. You don't always see them, but you know they're there and that it's real. And like, to be able to offer somebody a helping hand in that situation is important, along with like trying to tithe and go to church and other things. I mean, that teaches the value of systems and money and stuff, but to help out somebody that's in need is a friend in need is a friend indeed, and like their gratitude towards that is profound. Like, it's amazing, and knowing that I came from similar circumstances where I like had to hold a sign in cold weather, or sleep on the concrete ground with no bedding or blanket or whatever, and like was on a search for a deeper meaning and understanding of what other people may be experiencing. And doing so, I discovered the just value of having integrity and not stealing, or like, these that's all you have to do is ask. And I went to like business after business, and I was like, are you accepting applications or jobs? And they're like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I spent a lot of energy. Speaking of energy, like that's an incredible amount of energy just job searching, trying to find something that would allow me the space to earn a few bucks, and was running into a hang up there. I couldn't believe that. I was like, hard worker, and so now I'm like, just a little more chill, and excited about the program I'm in, and yeah, I don't have any resentments. I just have love, and I have a lot of blessings in my life that allow me to recognize that generosity that's been bestowed upon me, and to be generous towards others and compassionate towards hardships and their suffering, and like whether it's whatever brought them to that point, where they're engaged in that. Like, if there's something I can do to get them through like one more day, one more step, one more stage till they're ready to ask for help, or or more equipped to deal with the problems that they're dealing with, because I don't know what their intentions are, who they are, and and wow, like that was real for me because I had intentional trap that I came into where I wanted to help an unborn child, but I saved 3 people's lives and the kid and the girlfriend and like all that stuff. Like that's, I would never in a million years, like when I used and stuff before, like when I was a drunkard or like had piss poor morals or just destruction in my life, like think like that I'd be on the other side of the fence and codependent or like trying to help guide someone in a better quality of life and discover things for themselves. Like I never expected that, and it at one point this individual was crying, "You're too good for me," and I thought, well, I should humble myself and explain to them some truth about like hardships that I've dealt with. And that was in some ways was a beautiful mistake, like, because then it opened doors for them to be like take advantage of that and like that compassion, that love, and that discernment and that truth. Like it was an intimate conversation, but it also, I feel, had the potential to cause more harm for them and for myself than was beneficial. But then again, I think of that beautiful son that I have and that she had, and whether it was from me or from somebody else that had a parent, but it's a blood parent, I don't know. But I also recognize that I did the best I could with what little information I had, and was willing to turn myself in, was willing to ask for help for them, and was broken, torn apart, cried every day. Like it was powerful and profound, and to come out of that, like come full circle, is like, man, you don't know what you got till it's gone, and like then when you are losing it, you gotta guard like everything. You gotta protect your integrity, and you know you put the effort in because it's worth it. Like you're on a path that is like just full on hardcore freezing or hot and dry and like not getting your needs met, and then when you get things like water, food, shelter, you discover like that your needs are being met and like how simple and good like just basic stuff is that you may have taken for granted before, just like everything. Life's a gift, bro. Like wake up to that calling and show up and participate and share, like for real. Like it feel good to give too. Like it better. Okay, this is what I have to say. It's better to have and to give than to ask and not receive. Let me tell you, that's the truth. You ask and you don't receive, you be like, not like even forgiveness. I'm talking like just basic stuff. Like you ask, like you put on hold a sign that says like desperate for water. Oh, I'm so thirsty. I'm parched, and even even the most bitter thing, vinegar. I punched the thirst, and it was good for me. Like you recognize the importance of that and how that's helpful. Oh my goodness, I'm tired, so I'm losing it right now. Just like, wow. Yeah, that revelation to get what you need to, yeah, I'm just like can't wrap my mind around like how blessed it is to share that message with others. You actually get down with it. I'm like, God, help me get the things I need, not necessarily what I want. And when I get what I need, I have so much more than I want. And I'm like, just like, now I'm at the point where it's like, how can I help other people? How do I like, and I'm doing it. It's like, I'm getting in there. I'm like, hey, I'm writing this thing up about sign, dude. Like, you hold a sign and ask for help because if you're patient, some people will pay attention to that message. And the next step is like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of rice and beans. Water, rice, and beans. Lived off of it for a year. Apples, lived off of it for a year. Like, I got so tired of apples, rice, and beans. That uh, that it taught me the value, and it gave me a chance to um, give the animals a break. It gave me a perspective on my life and was a real soul searching, purposeful, meaningful. I abstained from sex. I abstained from violence. I became a whole, complete, new shell of a man, and recognizing that there's a source of energy that goes into each grain of that rice or that bean as far as it becoming a complete protein and a sustainable energy for me. Oh my gosh. And now, like, uh, a plate will come up and it'll be like, the other day, so like there was like undercooked pork or something served here, and my eyes were like, whoa, like I don't know if I can handle even seeing what I'm seeing because like my heart's a little more pure than what I'm witnessing right now. um, Back when I was like gludging and just like absorbing all this animal fat and proteins and amino acids and stuff, like I was an angry person. I just like didn't have any respect for anybody or myself or others, and I had so many resentments that my freaking brain was completely boggled down. I was like, I need to get my filters changed. Oh my god, having an epiphany that even like the radical transformation of going from this like huge meat eater, this angry guy lifting weights and like not being happy with the life, what life had given me, to um, dropping everything and just going like full vegan, and yet like uh, being naive to the fact that there's that I was being squeezed put into a compartment that I didn't fit into. uh, yeah, like I'd rather uh, accept a spiritual gift and acknowledge it in a way that brings me happiness and joy and freedom of the mind than ever be pinned down into something that I'm not, or abused into something that I'm not. Like, I don't want to be abused, and I don't. And who lives that way, like doing drugs and alcohol and like not caring or taking care of their responsibilities, like, you know, um, yeah, it's when I talk, like for instance, I don't get to talk to my daughter much because her mom don't trust me or know who I am at all. Like, it's sad that people get to me, it's like sad that people get in relationships or do things that have the potential of bringing life into the world ill prepared, or like, but then, you know, that was our choice to it was her stepdad one time. You get an abortion or something like that. I was like, oh, I get a job, man. I'll do my best, and that's what we're asked to do, is our best. If you fail at it, you fail at it, but you know you're doing your best and you keep trugging at it. It ain't easy, but it gets to a point where you're more proficient if you're willing to fight and fight and the best thing you can do is defeat the burden of resentment, guard the mind, guard the heart, guard the soul, cherish the spirit. Yeah, man, it's righteousness. It's super profound. It's you're born in line of sight. You become what you were born and meant to be in the essence that you have a radical transformation of mind, body, heart, and spirit, and connection with a higher power and connection with others around you, and you'd be totally awesome and break the chains, the bondage of what is boxing you in, clouding your vision, your aura, your essence. Even you see, I'm locked up. Like, they they got me pinned down to some degree, but other ways, my mind is free. It's like I could sit back and I'm like, where do I want to go with my mind today? I'll be like in space on a journey. I see the stars talking to each other with their information and their planets and their beings, and like envisionary, like uh, thinking of giant whales or like spiritual beings on these planets that are like in order of green and purple hues, a little crimson red in there, something like these things that are like communicating on levels that are what feels right and good to them, and they're in a form of energy that is yeah, I'm going on a tangent here, comprehensible of a source that they're like floating. So like, yes, animals like fish live in a different realm on our planet than we do. Free spirited, floating. They're always like, and we're drowned in gravity. We're held down to the ground. But yeah, they can't trap the mind, and they can't trap the soul. They can trap your body. But like, without trapping the mind or soul, do they really have you locked up? Like, if you really think about it, if you're free on the inside, you're free. If you're locked up on the outside and the inside, the fear of not going anywhere is real. And if you're locked up on the inside, that's just as bad as being locked up on the outside. Might as well like take care of them both at the same time if you have the ability to, and overcome that obstacle. If you meet them halfway if you have to, because like the burden of resentment is just a serious trap that gets a lot of people caught up, where they're not free. They may be free on the outside, but they are not free. Let me tell you, like, I know from experience that when I was feeling the burdens of resentments towards myself and others, and was locked up too on top of it, like, that was a sad place to be. Misery, I love company. Oh, jeez. The company did not like me. I was an angry guy. Like, now I'm just, like giggly, because the same things that used to bring me happiness and joy, like when I was really struggling, um, it's just family. Like, the same people that drove me nuts would make me happy. Yeah. I don't get to see my blood family very often or talk to them, because I am cast aside into a society of the bad apples. But I do have a sense of humor, and I do acknowledge that everything's a gift. That's fucked up. I'm so sorry, as messed up as it may seem, that I feel like that and see it that way. Um, I've been softened, I've been humbled, and been taught to to when I'm weak, I'm actually very strong. Like when my body's going through terrible things, if I'm focused on the task at hand. Um, this is so weird, but I've seen the moon be split in half. I've been buried 6 times. I've popped up. It's like just incredible things have happened. Feats of defiance towards um, pitiable, incomprehensible demoralizations and traumas. It's like, how do you can't comprehend breaking a femur, you can't comprehend the traffic, 70, 90, 100-mile-hour semi trucks, 8,000, anywhere from 55,000 to 100,000 pound machines, 18 wheelers flying by you at that rate, and you're in a tent. You're like, any second could be my last second. It sounds like bombs falling through the air. Like, it's real. And that's a struggle that these people that is homeless is going through. And some of them jacked up on heroin or really hardcore drugs because that's the only place they can utilize their habit and still, like, I don't know. It blows me away that anybody can live that way. So when I'm free on the outside, I'll be out there looking for people that is sad and having a rough time. I'll be like, here's a PB&J sandwich, and here's some water, like, afraid I give you $1 too if it helps you. Best thing you can do is ask for help, like, and decide to quit doing what you're doing. Like, the best way to quit is never to pick up and start in the first place, because believe you me, people that fall into the trap of addiction die or feed into negativity and are not free on the inside or the outside. They're trapped by the disease of addiction. They're trapped by the fear of not feeling well. And when something gets a hold of you and it goes past the high, like I experienced this with alcoholism. It wasn't I never did drink right. I started out as an alcoholic. I drank Everclear and orange juice as an 11-year-old, drunk, and felt 10 foot tall and bulletproof at first, but then I blacked out and had these terrible experiences, and you think, oh, why would you go back to that? Well, it wasn't so much that I wanted to or didn't want to go back to it. Peer pressure and other things happened in my teenage years, and then I just became an alcoholic, and it was the most destructive course. And when I tried quitting drinking, I got sick, really sick, mentally, physically, emotionally. That baggage, that scar tissue, that stuff bad things could happen if I started drinking again, and I know that. So I have a healthy respect for substances, alcohol, heroin, meth, cigarette, tobacco, like everything that is mind altering or causes a rip between that connectivity and that life source, that vitality, that freedom. See, with life source and vitality, you got freedom, and it is something that many people are dying to have, is freedom on the inside as well. I don't even look to freedom on the outside because I got it on the inside. That's all I need. Like, you can't break my spirit, and that's real.